Welcome, everyone. We have a amazing show prepared, and we have a great special guest tonight for you. And Dr. Benulis is a plant-based chiropractor from state of Arizona, and he has been working in the semiconductor industry developing wireless technology that is the precursor of the 5G wireless technology we have all over the world right now. And he has started yet since last year educating people about the dangers that the 5G technology and the EMF, which is the electromagnetic frequency, that has on our life, not only the animals, but also more importantly, our human lives, human health. So I am just so honored to have Dr. Volunas with us today to talk about this very important topic that is affecting all of us humans on this planet. So, hi, Dr. Benulis.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks so much for having me tonight. Real glad to be here.
Yes, welcome. It's so exciting to have you here because your background working in the telecom industry gives you such a unique uh, look and firsthand experience regarding how the 5G technology, what kind of impact has on our human health. And now you're a plant-based health practitioner, just like myself, and we share this really common path where we were both in the high tech wireless technology industry, and now we're in health, and it is our mission to really want to share with the world about the impact of these high tech technologies have on our health because it's invisible, but yet we know, both you and I know, it's really real, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Can you share a little bit about how you go from being a mechanical engineer into now you being a chiropractor, helping people reverse autoimmune diseases?
Sure. So, didn't plan it this way, but I was working as an engineer in in the semiconductor industry in telecom, and in my late 20s came down with a disease at the time that doctors couldn't diagnose or treat, and went through the medical system, but didn't really get any answers. And got passed around from specialist to specialist, doctor to doctor, test after test, drug after drug, and really no answers. Eventually got kind of frustrated with that and decided that I was going to have to figure out how to get well on my own. And so just researching and trying to just figure out how to get well because medicine wasn't working for me. That's when I came across a plant-based diet. And even though at the beginning I didn't really want to change what I ate or anything like that, it got to the point where I was desperate and made changes and really dove into it and saw my health just completely transform. And all the issues that I was dealing with at the time, as far as chronic pain, chronic fatigue, severe digestive problems, eczema, all went away when I changed my diet and my lifestyle. So that was really a wake-up call for me. And I really got a real understanding of how health and disease actually work. And I had been a firm believer in the medical model my whole life, and that experience of the medical model not working and the health and diet and lifestyle model working really shifted my perspective. And I realized that I wanted to be a part of the solution, not part of the problem. and that there were a lot of people like me out there who were suffering, who were going to doctors and not getting answers, and I wanted to be a person that they could go to and help them when the conventional system couldn't. So that's why I do what I do now, and I work with people with autoimmune disease like multiple sclerosis, Crohn's disease, Hashimoto's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, helping them reverse it with diet and lifestyle practices. So I'm passionate about that, but I still have the skill set and the knowledge taken over from my days in high tech. So
That's great. And that is what you're going to talk to us about the 5G technology. What First of all, can you share with us what's the 5G technology and what's EMF, and how did you start educating people about the danger of these technology since last year?
sure. So 5G stands for fifth generation. So there's been 5 generations of wireless communications over the past 30 or so years. So if you think back to it, like 1G was the very early cell phones, like the big ones that were like the size of a brick, and you could make basic calls on them and they weren't very good quality. Not many people had them. They were very expensive. Then eventually 2G came out and they could not only do voice, but they could do some limited data over wirelessly. And then around in the early 2000s, 3G came out, and that was really the ability to send and receive text messages. It was a pretty new technology. And then when the iPhone came out in 2009, well, the providers realized, like, wow, people want to download YouTube videos and send each other MP3 songs over their phones, and we have to have better data technology to be able to support much more bandwidth and much more data going wirelessly between phones, between towers. And so that's when 4G came about, which was allowed a lot more data and enabled things like iPhones to be able to do a lot of the things that they do and send and receive so much data. But now, of course, we're data hungry and we want more. And so they want to do all kinds of things wirelessly, not just download video, but have smart cars drive and run entire cities and infrastructure on wireless technology, and have things like the Internet of Things and send tons and tons of data back and forth between devices, between towers, like tons of nodes. And so that requires a lot of bandwidth. And so they had to develop new technology to be able to handle all that data. It's called 5G. And so it just so happens that that requires a lot of radiation, a lot of unsafe radiation to send that much data back and forth. So
Yeah,
so
so we know that they are harmful to our health. Do you want to share? I think you have some slides that could really illustrate what kind of harmful. How is it harmful to our health?
yeah, sure. Let's start from the beginning here. So can everybody see the screen? Can we see? Are you guys
Yeah,
seeing that?
yeah, we could see
Okay.
it. Uh-huh.
Okay. So this is what's called a small cell tower, okay, on the left. And you see it's connected to a lamppost there by the third story of the building. And, a normal large cell tower like they have for 4G and below is 250 feet off the ground, and it's usually about 2 miles away uh, from a person. These ones are about 50 feet off the ground and as close as to right up next to your home. So the amount of radiation exposure that you're getting from being so much closer to where the transmission occurs means that the radiation dose you're experiencing is going to be much greater. And then they do things like, this is a fake tree on the right, like they hide it in a tree because people complain. Well, it's like, they're not really complaining about the fact that it looks ugly. No one cares about a little knob on a lamppost, but people do care about being dosed with radiation by it. But this is, you'll see these, you may see these popping up in your neighborhood. These are small cells. They're not very big, but they don't let that hide the fact that they give off a lot of radiation.
Wow.
So, in fact, let's talk about how much more radiation they give off. So you need about 0.0002 microwatts per meter squared of power to make 5 bars on a cell phone call. Okay, And these towers can transmit up to 25 million times that amount. Okay. So it's not 10 times more. It's not 100 times more. It's not 1,000 times more. It's not 1,000,000 times more. It's 25 million times more radiation than you need to make a good phone call. Okay. So, and if we look at the illustration here, we have this house. This was someone's house. This was in California. And within 3 months of this tower going up, 3 weeks, their small children who lived in the second floor bedroom started developing radiation sickness symptoms. And this family had to spend $10,000 to shield their home from the radiation that this small cell tower was giving off. Okay, so they give off a lot of radiation. It's not just like a little bit more, it's a lot more. Okay,
Wow.
and so this is called microwave radiation. All right, which is a separate frequency. You probably heard of long waves and short waves and radio waves and X-rays and gamma rays and all this. Well, there's a certain set of frequencies on the electromagnetic spectrum from about 5 gigahertz to about 100 gigahertz called microwaves. This is the same type of radiation that's in a microwave oven. Well, we've actually have a lot of data to show that microwaves are harmful to human health. Okay, and when I say we have a lot of data, that probably doesn't even do it justice. We have 20,000 studies, 20,000 studies showing that microwaves cause harm to humans. And this is at or below the FCC guidelines. Okay. Now you may be asking yourself, well, why do we have this much data? How do we have done 20,000 studies and they're still putting these towers up? Well, a lot of these studies were done by the military because they were actually studying microwaves since World War II to be used as a weapon, as a bioweapon. Okay. So we have a lot of data to show that it causes cancer, heart problems, sleep disruptions, infertility, and DNA damage. Okay. So now a lot of people will say, oh, well, it's non-ionizing radiation, so it doesn't cause harm, that only ionizing radiation is harmful. And that's a line of defense a lot of people use about EMFs and 5G. It's like, well, it's non-ionizing radiation, it's safe. No, the data is very clear that you can still be harmed by non-ionizing radiation. Okay, we can look at DNA damage, and if you look at the slide, you have DNA. Okay, and on the left, this is control of DNA. Okay, and then we see in the middle we have ionizing radiation. The DNA is zapped with what are called gamma rays at about 1,600 times the amount of a chest X-ray. Okay, so it's a lot of radiation. That's a lot of radiation. That's not something you want to get hit with. Now we have similar phenomenon on the right. This is from non-ionizing radiation from a cell phone. We also see DNA damage. So this argument that that the industry likes to throw around, and like the tech nerds who read TechCrunch and Reddit and all this will parrot back and say, oh, well, it's non-ionizing radiation, it's safe. Non-ionizing radiation is definitely not safe and definitely causes DNA damage. Okay. This is a phenomenon. When I found out about this is another harm caused by EMFs, specifically from cell phones. What they do to red blood cells. Now, for those of you who don't have a biology background, red blood cells, as a reminder, are the cells that carry oxygen through your body. So they suck up oxygen when they get to your lungs, and then they distribute it out through the bloodstream to your cells. Okay, so they perform what's called cellular respiration, getting the oxygen from your lungs to your cells. All right, now this is healthy red blood cells. They're shaped kind of like little donuts, okay, with little circles, little cylinders, pancakes, okay. And so this is them normally. All right, now this is them after exposed to just like low levels of cell phone radiation. This would be like carrying your cell phone around in your backpack, okay? So we see that the cells start to clump together just a little bit, nothing major, but this inhibits their ability to uptake and transport oxygen. All right, now this is carrying a cell phone in your pocket, okay? And this is your red blood cells, and they're forming what are called rouleau formations where they clump together in these long, the donuts or the pancakes or whatever, you kind of clump together in these Rolo formations where they just become like a stack of coins, like a roll of quarters or something like that. Again, now your ability to uptake and transport oxygen is severely inhibited. All right. Now this is 45 minutes with a cell phone. Now the red blood cells start to develop spikes on them. They get in all these weird clumps. It's total chaos. All right. You think these red blood cells are going to be able to uptake and transport oxygen? Well, no. Okay. So this is what happens to red blood cells with cell phone exposure. And this is not like the new 5G phones. This is every phone. Okay. And this is, remember, we said that you need 0.002 units of radiation to make a phone call. Remember that 5G is giving you 25 million times of this. Okay, so watch out.
Now, Dr. Benulis, so
Yes.
that 45 minutes, is that the person holding the phone to their ear, or just looking at the phone and talking to the phone?
This is making a call for 45 minutes. Good question.
And holding the phone near their ear.
Yes.
Will
Yes.
cause this the change in the red blood cell. Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. No, great question. That's very important because we'll talk a little bit later about how to mitigate radiation exposure, and definitely holding your phone to your face for any period of time is a bad idea. Okay. So children are the most affected by this. Okay, they have their thinner skulls. They have more water in their body. The water acts as an antenna. It absorbs more radiation. And what are we doing? Well, we're building 5G small cells at schools because the wireless industry will pay them thousands of dollars a month to have the tower on their football field, right, on their playground. They say, oh, well, it's going to be better internet connectivity for the students. That's true, but it's also going to be a lot more radiation for people who are very vulnerable to it. One other thing that's fascinating is that there's something called the blood-brain barrier, okay, which is that your brain is selectively permeable. It doesn't let a lot of things in because a lot of things could damage it. So you have a blood-brain barrier that doesn't allow a lot of things in from the blood into the brain, because if it got up in there, it couldn't get out and it would be toxic to the brain. Well, what happens when exposed to radiation? The blood-brain barrier, which is supposed to keep things out, becomes permeable. Okay, so this is 2 hours in a rat brain. And you can actually see the perforations, the brown spots, or areas where the blood-brain barrier became leaky and stuff that was in the blood got in. Okay, now you get a little close up, you can actually see holes. You can see holes in the brain on a rat. Okay, this is what's called a neurofibril. It's a part of a okay, so one thing I should mention about this is that if there is toxicity in the body, okay, if there's heavy metals from environmental exposure, whether that's vaccines or it's drugs or it's some sort of heavy metal poisoning, that stuff's going to get in the brain. The blood-brain barrier has been keeping it out, but if you're exposed to this kind of radiation, it'll open the blood-brain barrier and it'll get in. Right. This is
that how brain tumors get formed by having?
We're not really sure. Radiation definitely contributes to brain and heart tumors. So those are the kinds that it most often causes. The actual mechanism isn't really fully understood. At least I don't know. So maybe that sounds like a great theory. I think it definitely plays a role, right? Here we have a neuron coming in contact with some mercury, and you can see that from slide 1 to slide 2, it harms it. Okay, so this is when heavy metals get into the brain. It's extremely toxic, and that's what can happen with if they're already in the body and in the bloodstream. They will get to the brain with radiation exposure.
Oh, so because of the leaky hole in the brain caused by the radiation, so that if there's heavy metal in the body, it will also make it easier for them to get into the brain. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yes.
Wow. And does the radiation cause more heavy metal or
The heavy
just
metals have to already be there,
oh,
but
okay.
you have to understand we live in a very toxic 21st century. Everybody has them, like every
Yes.
mercury
Yeah, from
fillings.
our foods and yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
many pollutants and toxins besides heavy metals that are just we're exposed to. I
right.
mean, we're finding this stuff in like newborn babies, like first bowel movement, like
Yeah.
they because they got it in utero. So it's in there and it's going to get in their brain if they're exposed to a lot of radiation. Um,
So that's the implication, meaning that actually can cause more people to have brain disorders like Alzheimer, Parkinson's, and
yeah,
uh,
it's gonna accelerate that for sure. Yeah.
right. Got it.
Also,
Okay,
children with autism.
and doctor, we have a technical difficulty. So
Okay.
Lisa asked George, David to put me into the channel because the Wi-Fi for the other translator, nothing wrong, is not steady. So I'm
Okay.
taking as translating. Sorry for everybody to be a little patient, and I apologize for technical breakdown. Okay, so please, David, put me into a translation, and I'm taking over as English Mandarin translator. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Norman. Thank you.
Let
Okay,
me
go
know.
ahead, Dr.
Oh, keep
Benulis.
going. Keep going.
Yeah.
Okay. So, um, 5G and EMFs are not just threatening to humans. They're threatening to animals. They're threatening to plants. They're threatening to, all life on Earth. Um, and, including pollinators and insects. If you've ever seen these videos where they take a cell phone and they put it near a bee colony and all the bees start swarming away from it. Um, and if we lose our bees and our pollinators, we can't grow plants for food. We can't grow food, right? So that's definitely a danger. Um, so I want to talk about the industry and some of the games that they play. So these big tech companies are good at shielding themselves from liability. Like you're looking at all this and like, wow, this is harmful. How do they get away with it? Well, one of the things they do is they use shell companies to put up towers. So they subcontract these little mom and pop local companies to build the towers. And then they get insurance, but the insurance is what's called a pollution exclusion clause, so they're not covered for damage caused by radiation. Cell tower radiation is considered a pollutant, so they get sued, but they're shell companies that make money, so they go bankrupt, and then the wireless company, the Verizon, the T-Mobile, doesn't have any liability. So then the municipality or the city or the state ends up paying the money for the lawsuits that come out when people get harmed by these things.
Oh, so that's the how the wireless industry, I mean the big carriers, how they protect themselves from the lawsuits is because they have these small companies to to get hit by the lawsuit directly.
Yeah, they basically like have those companies build them and then they lease them from
Uh-huh.
the companies. So the shell company owns the actual physical tower and they're liable for it, and they
I
just
see.
lease it.
I
So
see.
it's a sham to get away with not having hurting people and not having to pay for it.
Oh
So
boy. Is that why you so actively participate in the political scene with the local government, like in your state, to
yes, yes,
to let people raise awareness and let people know that's like the what their scam? Uh,
yes.
got it.
Um, because I mean, we can try to stop it at the national level with the FCC, but that's a long battle. Like that takes a long time. We don't have a
Right.
lot of time. So the more local you get involved, the faster you can make change. So the state level
Right.
takes a long time. The city level, it's a battle, but it doesn't take as long. You can get them to change their laws. We'll talk a little bit
Right.
about that. I don't like
Right.
politics, but I also don't like health harms. So I'm willing to get involved in politics to stop health harms. And we'll
Yeah,
talk.
people needs to know about first of all about the harm, and then they can really see the urgency of this.
Yeah, yeah. And so, like when I speak about it, it's like I'm trying to explain the magnitude of the problem. We have 20,000 studies showing that it's harmful,
Yeah.
25 million times more radiation than needed to make a good phone call. I mean, this
Yeah.
is no exaggeration. This is the reality.
And this is not just with the 5G phones, right? It applies to the 4G phones,
Well,
four
the
and a
phone
half.
doesn't matter. It's the tower that gives off the
Oh,
radiation.
I see. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you think, oh, I won't get a 5G phone, I'll be safe. No, there's going to be 5G towers going up everywhere, even if you don't have a phone at all.
Hmm.
There's no
So,
way that you can't
so
lock yourself in a metal box,
wow. And imagine it's not just in the US that we have the 5G towers up, it's all over the world. So,
That's correct.
those of us, we have participants from China, from other overseas countries. Yeah, that imagine this is the same issue that's happening and where you are too.
Yeah. And so I'm familiar with the laws in the US to some I'm in my own state of Arizona, I'm very familiar with it. It's going to vary state to state and country to country,
Uh,
how to actually to fight it. Because I mean, ultimately, you saw in that first slide, if we can go back to it, but there's gonna be a tower eventually right in front of your house, right in front of your house, dosing you 24/7 with microwave radiation.
So, what kind of symptoms did that little kid have after they 3 weeks exposed to the radiation tower?
I don't know the story on that.
Uh-huh.
There's a like the full story. There's a website which I'll link to at the end. It's called Sciences for Wired Tech. Has the full story on that one.
Got it. So, wow. How would so now it got every one of us concerned, yeah, knowing about this. How, first of all, everybody would think, how am I first going to protect myself first from this radiation?
Sure, we'll go into that.
Oh, okay.
So let's see. So okay, just a few more slides. We'll get to that question because I don't want to get over here. Data shows that when a cell tower goes up, whether it's 4G or 5G or whatever, close proximity to a home, its property value goes down 20%. Okay, so that's no good for anybody. It's not good for homeowners. It's not good for cities. They lose property tax revenue. It's bad news. We also there's in addition to health harms, there's property value harms, and there's privacy and security harms. That these waves, microwaves, can take near X-ray images of people, like near nude images of you. Like they can you can see this picture, like basically photograph this woman without her clothes on using microwaves.
Mm.
So they can mine your data. They can essentially surveil you without your consent. So it sets up a police state. So the implications to privacy are very dire. So here's some
And
tips.
without your permission.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And basically like peer into your windows and watch what you're doing.
Wow.
So, but I'm a health professional. Mainly, what I talk about are the health implications, but the property value and the security and privacy implications are pretty scary. So, how to mitigate your exposure to EMFs? So, don't carry your cell phone on your person. Okay, a lot of people are carrying it in their pocket, carrying it in their bra. Bad idea. Okay, carry it away from you. All right. Another way to mitigate your exposure when you're sleeping, you don't need any wireless going. That just exposes you more radiation. So turn off your cell phone, turn off your Wi-Fi router. If you have smart devices in the house, turn those off when you're sleeping or not using them. Bluetooth exposes you to a lot of radiation. Minimize the use of that. I'm on a wired headset here. Okay. Smart home devices. Okay, this is supposedly the future with the Internet of Things. You're gonna have a smart toaster and a smart dryer and a smart air conditioner and a smart window shade and a smart diaper on your kid and a smart washing machine and a
And
smart
there's
car.
also smart locks too, right?
Yes, they're all giving off radiation all the time, exposing you and your family to it. It's a bad idea. It's a lot of radiation.
Mm.
it's convenience, but I don't think it's worth the exposure personally.
Is there any way to detect the exposure?
Yeah, so there are EMF devices that can monitor, detectors that can monitor EMFs. There's a bunch of them. I'm not an expert on which ones are the best or most, least expensive or anything like that. But
Right.
I
see some of them in Amazon.
Yeah. Although I'm not a fan of purchasing things from Amazon. There's a company called Safe Living Technologies. I think they're the best.
Oh, okay. Can you type that in the
yeah, let's type that in the chat.
In the chat box. Yeah, thanks.
How do I?
We have a question from George. Say, is there a map to show all the antenna in an area?
Some cities have them, some areas have them, some don't. You have to look for it, but there's no like master map.
Oh, I see. Oh, the cell phone company will not share their map for you.
I mean, there are ways to get it. Oftentimes your city, the government will have that. You just have to ask them for it.
Oh, and it's our right. We can ask for it, right? It's not like
yes, it's public record. You have to get it. I mean, you may have to submit a public records request to actually get it, but through the Freedom of Information Act, at least in the United States, you can get that information.
Oh, okay, that's good to know.
They have to give it to you.
Yeah.
So these are ways to stop it in your home, but there's a tower out in front of your house. There's not much you can do other than somehow plead the city to get the tower turned off or turned down or taken away. So it's not like a drug therapy or some unsafe surgery that you can choose to get it or choose not to get it. There's no opting out. If this goes up around you, there's no escape. So we have to get to work at stopping this before it gets too late. It's not like people talk about, oh, there are these pendants you wear and these necklaces and bracelets that shield you from EMFs. I haven't seen any of those that work. Okay. I've tested it with the meter. It doesn't work. Now there are things you can get, like Safe Living Technologies will have like a canopy that you can put around your bed that's made out of silver. It'll block EMFs, but you can't put that around your whole house. I mean, it would cost $30,000. Silver is not cheap.
Wow.
So there really is, like, I just can't impart enough of a sense of urgency that you got to get involved in stopping this, because it's coming to your neighborhood. These companies have a lot of power, and it's hard to say no. So what you can do, here's how you stop towers in your area. You contact your city officials, get to know your city government, your city council members, your mayor. Contact them, call their office, email them, get your friends to email them. Ask them to call a moratorium. Okay. If they can't do that, ask them to reject permit applications. They get these permit applications, an application for a permit to build a tower. Tell them to start rejecting them so that no new ones get built. Okay. And another thing you can do, and this is a tactic that we've had some modicum of success pursuing, is a city can set something called a wireless ordinance, where they can set a maximum of how much power can come off the towers. Because if you remember, I said, well, some of these towers are giving off 25 million times what it takes to make 5 bars on a cell phone. So what if we cap that so that they could only put off what it takes to give 5 bars on your cell phone, or maybe 10 times that at the most, right? You send a little data, shoot a YouTube video to your friends here and there, but you're not radiating people with mass amounts of radiation. We cap the power on the tower. So instead of these tanks and missile launchers coming at you, well, we've just turned these towers into little squirt guns that can't really harm you.
Of course, the people who want those fast movie download will complain, right?
Well, here's the thing. We can still have fast downloads. You just don't want to do it wirelessly, right? You can still have fiber optic technology. You can still have, high-speed broadband coming to your home. underground through cables, that's safe. It's faster than 5G. But instead, our strategy is no, let's not send the internet underground, through wire where it's safe. Let's beam it down as radiation on everybody. Well, that's kind of a bad idea when you think about it. I mean, okay, you can watch Netflix in your car and like stream videos and, high speed gaming and all this from your phone. But do you really need to do that? If you're going to be exposed to that much radiation, you can get broadband to everybody.
If people know the trade-off, I'm sure they will choose the safer, non-harmful option.
Yeah.
If only they know, right? They don't know. We don't know what we don't know.
They don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like a great idea. Who wouldn't want better internet? And so they try to, defame people like me and say, oh, you're anti-technology. You want us to live in the dark ages where we can't send any data. It's like, no, it's not what I said. I just want to be able to send data in a safe way.
Right.
And so if we do broadband fiber optics, which much of the infrastructure is already built, well, we can do it faster. We can do it safer. And, the cities can regulate the broadband as a public utility and actually make money off of it. So it actually saves money. So it's a slam dunk. But, these wireless companies stand to make a lot of money and they don't want to go down without a fight. So that's kind of where we are. I hope I've explained things well. I know there's a lot of information. Definitely happy to answer any questions anybody has. And if I didn't explain anything well, like ask for clarification, please.
So I see some questions in the chat box. Do you guys want to unmute yourself and ask directly to Dr. Benulis?
Ooh, I do want to go over a few things. I forgot I have a few more slides.
Oh, okay.
Documentaries you want to watch. Generation Zapped and 5G Trojan Horse. Very good documentaries. Get informed. Okay.
Yes, those are really good. Yes, I watched them.
If you want to learn how to fight the towers, what political tactics working with your city and state actually work, visit these websites, scientistsforwiredtech.com, 5gcrisis.com, and if you're in Arizona, we have our own website, azforsafetech.org. There's a picture of fiber optic cables.
Yeah. Okay. As I understand, locally here in Silicon Valley, we also have some EMF groups that we can join to find out where the public hearings are, and so I encourage you, those of you in your own area, find out what groups that are going against this technology and wanted to protect ourselves, and get together with them and see what's going on with the local government. So I would suggest that. Okay. All right. Do you want me to bring up the questions in the chat box, or you guys want to ask the question yourself?
I have questions.
Go ahead, Jeannie.
So Dr. Benulis, did I spell your name right? So
Benulis, yes.
You got it right. Most people don't. Thank you. I'm used to people getting it wrong, but you got it right.
Smarter already. Okay. My question is, I'm not tech savvy, but I go by what I understand so far. So I guess we already had, this is the 5th generation wireless here. So are we going to even faster to 6G, probably get worse? And the following question, you mentioned about 25 million times more radiation. Is it mean that it can be, instead of 25 million, radiation can be cut down from that tower? And my third question is, like, you mentioned it's safer to use the broadband and all that. So is that broadband and 5G, a company like Verizon, T-Mobile, are they rivalry? That is all my question I got.
Okay. So go over them again real quick. I remember the last one, but get the questions again.
So is it safer? Do we have an option if they put down the tower, which is 25 million times more radiation? They have a better option than 25 million? Maybe they can go 1 million, which is better than 25 million.
Sure.
That was the first question. And second question, if we don't stop the 5G, are we going to move forward to the 6G? And third question is the broadband, you say it is safer. Are there rivalry with the 5G company, which is Verizon and T-Mobile?
Sure. Okay. Good question. So yes, we talk about it's 25 million times more than 5 bars on the cell phone. We can turn the power down to 1 million times more or 100 times more or whatever the local government thinks is a fair amount. That's something that you got to work at the city level and get your city council and your mayor to pass an ordinance that caps the amount of power coming off the tower. So you say no more than this amount, okay, is allowed to come off the towers, and you regulate it. And basically what they can do is put a fuse on the tower such that if the tower gives off too much radiation, the fuse blows and the tower powers down, right? And then we say, okay, Verizon, you went over the power. You got to pay $10,000 if you want that tower back. The cities can enact laws like that. So that's how you do it. But that has to be done at the local level, and that's educating your city council, who've probably only heard this story from Verizon and T-Mobile about how great 5G is. They haven't heard the story from someone like me who used to work for the industry and thinks otherwise. So yeah, the wired connection, yeah, there's definitely competition. The wireless companies want to make money, right? And they are competition. They're competing with a lot of the broadband wired providers. Okay, and there's fewer of the wireless companies, and they're bigger, so they have more leverage, and they can better lobby the government to get what they want. So they are absolutely competing, and they say, well, we have better technology. They can do it through the ground, but we can do it through the air. Ours is better. Well, yeah, not entirely true, because it's not as fast. It's definitely not as safe. It's more convenient. That's about all they got going for them. But yeah, there's definitely competition. And they need fiber optic cable to connect to the tower. The tower's got to have its own internet connection. Otherwise, how is it going to work? So the irony is that we need the fiber optic cable whether or not we have the towers or not. So if we could do without the radiation, I don't see the point in putting up the towers, but it makes companies like Verizon and T-Mobile and Sprint a lot of money. So was there one more question? Did I answer all of them?
Yeah. Basically, they need to be regulated, in other words, kind of by local to state to federal.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you, Jeannie. Yeah. So the time we're come to the end of the show and end of the translation, at least the part. And after this, you can also hang around and ask more questions till another 8 minutes, and then that will be the end of today's show. Thank you so much, translators Elsa and Vivian and Norman, for helping us with the translation.
我们
And
翻譯幫我哋翻譯啦。
可以再聊聊天。
okay, so yes, anybody? Well, let's. There's a couple more questions. I think in
我
the
们还有
chat
一些
box.
问题，
I think Jeannie also had that one question about whether there's 6G
Yes.
going on. We're just talking about 5G, but I heard that 6G is going on, at least in China, they're going on. I don't know about here. Do you know anything, Dr. Benulis?
I know it's a technology that it's under development. I don't know too much about how it works and how safe it is relative from 5G to 6G. But it's essentially more wireless radiation going through the air. So at some point we got to think about how are we going to live as humans if we're just constantly bathed in radiation? So if we cap the power on the 5G towers, well, then we have wireless ordinance in place that when the 6G towers come along, well, the power is capped for those too. So it's a really good solution to protect us in the long term, even as new technologies come out.
Yeah.
But as far as the science behind 6G, I'm still trying to fight 5G here. I don't know enough about it.
Well, traditionally every G increment is 10 times the power of the previous G.
Yeah.
So as you can imagine, yeah, they will get even worse.
This
So-
is Dr. You guys have some tea. I can have to sum it up for some of our Chinese individual here since we stopped the translation. So acknowledge the translation team. 那个你们好啊，刚才 Dr. Ben 是说有一个问题，就是关于 5G 跟6G 的，这个是不是6G 的时候会更安全，或者是功率更大？他说Dr. Ben 说我们那个因为他是现在面前的是 5G， 大家对这个还不了解，而且那个传输的功率其实超出它应该需要的范围的，我们都应该注意了。至于 6G 的时候，因为如果 5G 我们能够让我们的政府有所立法限制它的功率，这样子呢，如果以后出来更新的、更强大的功率，但是说它那个有效率好像安全率方面，我们也可以注意它，让它有所限制，做到它的科技需要，但是不要影响人体太大。谢谢。
Okay, great. Thank you, Norman. Any other questions for Dr. Benulis?
We got 3 hands raised. So.
Okay. Who are the hand raised? I can't see. David, Wei Hao, and Vivian. Oh, how about David?
So, Doctor, my question is twofold. First off, and I was jumping back and forth between channels, so if I missed this, I apologize. You're saying that the towers are giving off 25 million times more power than necessary. The question is why?
Sure.
If it's much more than, is it on distance or for what reason would it be so dramatically over the top?
So good question. So, and this is an important point of clarification. It's 25 million times more than is needed to make a 5-bar call. Okay, it's not, so data uses a lot more power than voice. We've gotten to it where we can send voice transmission pretty easily without using a lot of power. But this is to stream large amounts of data. This is to power multiple, hundreds or thousands of devices to each send, to stream Netflix videos and things like that. So this is to send large amounts of data. And so that's why it's so much more power. And that's why I advocate for, if you're going to send all this data, just send it through wires in the ground. Like if it's going to put off that much radiation. So that's why the number is so much higher.
Okay. Can we translate to those who don't know English for a little bit? I sum it up. Okay, David. David 问的问题啊，为什么这个功率啊，刚才提到很大，那这很大是什么？其实Dr. Ben 讲，这个功率是什么呢？如果你只是用那个五条杠杠的打电话，它的功率是2500万倍于那个5杠杠，因为打电话需要的功率是很低的。它为什么要这么高呢？就是你不能想象，最主要是我们要传输很多资讯，好像你们download一个4K 的 video 一个电影，非常多的资讯，因为这样子呢，就是跟打电话无线传输是不可相比。所以他有个提议，就是说，第一我们要立法管制，另外是如果可能要考虑呢，把那些用光纤在地下通过，没有这种电磁波，可能是另外一个方法。但是因为全讯公司已经发展这种技术嘛，它尽量会利用这个，就可能会漠视了我们对人体的影响啊，可能会这样子。
Thank you, Norman. Let's have Vivian.
Wait, did David have a second question?
Yeah, right. Okay, sorry, David.
It was in reference to the fiber optics and running the data underground, so to speak. And that part makes sense to me, and I've seen how this could work. The challenge that I'm curious about is the fiber optics, and I'm going to take New York City for example. Verizon's got great lines on the streets to get to the buildings, but once they get to the buildings, then it's old coaxial cable or copper. So then what happens, and does that dramatically change what's able to exchange?
I'm not, entirely sure. Can't speak to that, but I mean, new infrastructure will need to get built, whether it's wired or wireless. So I mean, there will be a cost associated with building new wired infrastructure for sure. I don't contest that. But you have to look at a cost benefit of like, okay, there's gonna be a cost to building new wired towers, but there's also gonna be a cost to human health and a lot of intangible things. Property values is a tangible cost, but there's gonna be costs either way. And that's one of the industry's arguments, like, well, it'll be more expensive to do fiber optic everywhere. Well, in the short term, yes, but in the long term, absolutely not.
好，我这里概括的是David 问题一个非常好的跟进问题。这个问题是这样子的，那个 Dr. Ben 你提到那个光纤传输，如果光纤通过地下，好像我们有些手机公司它已经有以前的 cable 跟光纤线了，到一个大的这个区块一个大的大楼里头，都很好，但是一到大楼里头那个光纤会发成是电子的。有金属线，这个金属又有这个金属线的那个副线又怎么影响呢？那个 Dr. Ben 的答案是，这个事情是很复杂的，而且是很多专家都没有完全搞清楚。但是因为那个公司啊都是那个利润驱动的，它已经发展了它现在那个5G 的技术跟配套，那它可能的辩解是，现在这个最有效的就是用这种。小风花这个电塔这样子最快，但是呢，这个其实价钱呢，从井的那个发射的价钱比较低，但是 Dr. Ben 说了，这个也要衡量到你对人体的伤害或者医疗方面以后的支出。现在付出这个代价去重整这个整个全球系统，还是当影响到人的时候，人要付出医疗系统的代价。可能甚至是保险公司那种控诉的法律的责任，所以这个是大家需要了解跟平衡的。谢谢。
Thank you, Norman. Looking at the time, since some of us is part of the production team, which we can stay behind and ask Dr. Benulis. But I see that we have one participant, iPhone 847-508-0463. Do you have one quick question? Maybe we could take yours as the last one.
需要翻译吗？你是 iPhone 是在芝加哥地区的，如果你有问题，你需要翻译吗？还是直接问那个 Dr. Ben？ 你打开你的 ，Please turn on your mic。也打开你的音频，我们这个可能要简短一点。
Okay, maybe she doesn't see here. Anyway,
OK， 847的电话哈，如果你现在打开，不然我们可能要就是暂停准备我们的这个会了，谢谢。
Okay, well, maybe she stepped away. Anyway, it's time already. So this has been a fairly eye-opening and thought-provoking, and really, thank you, Dr. Benulis, for bringing and raising our awareness to this such a urgent and important topic that is affecting our everyday life, actually going on now, as most of us are in the urban 5G area, not like in the middle of nowhere. So this is really, really pertinent information that's closely affecting our lives. Thank you so much, Dr. Benulis, for being on our show. And
thanks for having me.
Yes, we'd love to invite you back for more in-depth understanding or more progress down the road. Hopefully we'll get to inspire all of us to participate in our local government and affecting what gets erect next to our in front of our house. So thank you so much.